Hello everyone, buffeting back at the Bacchanal buffet at Caesar's Palace, of course. Just before the pandemic, brunch was $39.99 in the midweek. This one was never cheap, we all know that. In this video we will clarify whether the Bacchanal buffet is really worth it. So let's first take a look at the 2022 prices. A brunch for an adult is now generally $64.99, plus tax of course. This means for two people we have to pay $140.87, plus a tip of course. At the time of this video, no discount on the Bacchanal buffet is known. The legendary Groupon deal that has existed for a very long time went down in the 2022 buffet apocalypse. There are a total of 9 major food stations in the Bacchanal buffet. The parfaits were fine restaurant quality, great. They were also nice and small, so I could try different sorts. We'll start with the breakfast items. We also find normal breakfast items such as waffles, French toast, pancakes and yes, red velvet waffles. There was also chicken fried steak, of course with gravy. An excellent selection of cold cuts and something quite rare in a baker's buffet. Namely, a large selection of quality nuts and dried fruits. The huge cheese platter is a good example of the almost perfect presentation that we experience almost everywhere in the Bacchanal. Reuben Benedict is a great twist on the classic egg Benedict, only with a hash brown instead of an English muffin and of course corned beef instead of Canadian bacon. The hash brown was the best part and tasted very potato-y. The egg was perfect on the point, but unfortunately the corned beef was a bit tasteless. I'm not usually a fan of fries at a gourmet buffet, but an exception can be made for the train wreck fries from the American station. Fries with beef brisket sound interesting, but here we have the old problem with buffets that are simply too big, so that you have to think carefully about what to put on the plate. Something that happens to me all the time, even after all that years of buffet experience. The carving station is undoubtedly one of the most relevant stations. Here it is decided, among other things, whether the buffet can justify the high price or not. What we see here is a good selection of sausages, ribs, honey glazed ham, prime rib, and the proud of Kansas City, the burnt ends. Beef brisket, and also one of my personal favorite, the very fatty bacon. Everything is good at the first glance, but I think for the price you can really expect steak and overall more variety on the carved meats. So now let's see how the meat performed on the plate. Like I said, I love bacon, and this one was really nice and fatty and not dry at all as I hoped, and of course fantastically high in fat. But my favorite here, and that surprised me very much, was the so-called burnt ends, an ingenious beef brisket that I could cut without problems with a fork only, because it was so incredibly tender. What a protein bomb, and just a high quality cut of meat. Finally, the skin of the whole roast pork from the Vietnamese station. The skin was crispy and at the same time nice and fat, something different. The Asian section is so massive that I made an exclusive video just about it. The Asian station consists of 4 different regions, of course China, Japan, Vietnam and Korea. It's also a really great station, but honestly, you don't need to go to the Bacchanal and pay $65 plus to get Asian food in Las Vegas, as there are much cheaper off-strip destinations that are just an Uber ride away from the strip and mostly for significantly less money often still offer a higher quality of food. The seafood station is the second relevant station that decides whether the buffet is worth the money or not. Vegas tofu, scrambled egg and a plant-based breakfast sausage are not what I expect from a seafood station. But let's take a look at the highlights here. There's a good selection of mussels and the well-known Jonah crabs. You can mix your own shrimp cocktail with these quiet large peeled shrimps. But if you are more into salmon, the Bacchanal offers you a station where you can create your own bagel with the options of cream cheese, red onions, capers, tomatoes and of course the very tasty salmon itself. Overall, I was rather disappointed with the seafood station due to the lack of selection. It doesn't always have to be lobster, in example. A larger selection of shrimp or scampi would have been great. And I also didn't like the fact that we get plant-based stuff here that doesn't belong in the seafood station anyway. The jumbo shrimp were okay, but you can get the same size for half of the price at the Westgate buffet on weekends. The only real specialty here was the Jonah crabs. Overall, I wasn't impressed. The dessert island, as I call it, has great varieties of gelato and lots of little desserts, which is really good for reducing food waste and allowing me to try a lot of different things instead of 2 or 3 only. The little dash of chocolate was my absolute favorite dessert, just a nice high quality moist brownie with a great ganache. Conclusion: the Bacchanal buffet in 2022 has become decadently expensive, but no better than in 2019. The ambience, the presentation and the overwhelming choice is what draws people here. The management knows how it works and that's their magic. The food is good, but for the price I expect a lot more extravagant food items to justify the price. Furthermore, the two most important stations with the seafood and the carving station are not that perfect. It is also usually very crowded and noisy due to the massive crowds eating here. I am not a fan of the atmosphere. I personally wouldn't go back here given the value for money unless I have a dining credit or something similar. But what do you think? Is a Bacchanal still worth the money? Let me know in the comments below. And in the next episode of the Buffet King, we'll take a deep look if the Bellagio Buffet can retake his crown and become the new Buffet King of Las Vegas. Until then, take care everybody.